now tuned in to the Cold Hard Truth, Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Okay, good morning, beautiful people. What is going on? Happy Tuesday. Can you believe it? August the 31st. This is it. The month of August is officially going to be over today. And then we're into September. I don't know about you, but September always makes me a little bit uncomfortable because it is the height of hurricane season. And that, folks, is reason to be concerned. Trust me. Ugh, not looking forward to it. The poor folks in Louisiana got hit hard, very, very hard by Hurricane Ida. I understand yesterday she was still like a Cat 2 storm. I'm like, what? She hit land and she's still at Cat 2 storm. Well, hopefully she's fizzled out a little bit by now. So far, I'm only hearing of one death, but they might find more as the days continue. Thank God the levees held this time, so that was a bit of good news for them. And wow, devastating. I haven't watched a whole bunch of videos quite yet of what happened. Sometimes you don't even want to see the devastation. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you're just like, oh my gosh, those poor people. But we've been down that road before. We know what a catastrophic storm is like, and they still didn't get hit by what we got with Ivan. But we can certainly appreciate that it doesn't take an Ivan. You don't have to be a Cat 5 to do a lot of damage. It can still happen, right? Who's with me this morning? Let me just have a quick look. We do have the minister who's going to jump in. I know he's on his way to cabinet this morning, but he's going to jump in because, child, if one thing I know about Cayman now without controversy, trust me, we know that. And I guess controversy sells, and that's why as newspapers and news establishments, we don't necessarily mind a little bit of controversy. But is this a situation where controversy is being created by by the news media? Well, let's find out. Let me see here now. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to talk about some regional stuff because it's getting a little bit scary. Getting some news information here this morning. So who's with me? Let me have a quick look at who we got here. We got Felicia. Good morning. We have Wee. Thank you so much for tuning in. Louis is here. Top of the morning to you, Louis. Let me turn on my camera, by the way. There we go. We got Dinan 12. Marshall, of course, has got it locked. Evelyn is here. Louis says 66 degrees Fahrenheit, a high of 86. Calm winds, no rain in the forecast. Well, I don't know what our official forecast is, but from where I'm standing, looks pretty good. Blue skies is what I would say. Blue skies ahead. Isn't it funny how we never look at the official forecast unless there's actually something going on? And then we're like, oh my gosh, the forecast. Let me see what the forecast says. August 30th was the last time we got weather report. That was yesterday. Partly cloudy skies with 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will rise to the upper 80s. Winds will be east to southeast, 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. Do you ever have wave heights of like nothing? Like it's just crystal calm out on the waters? So that's the forecast for today. They sent this out at 4:17 p.m. yesterday. So 20% chance of showers, they say. We shall see. And that was from the chief meteorologist. There you go. Good morning, Miss Beverly. Corrine is here. Dana, thank you so much. She says, good morning, Caymankind. Siobhan's got it locked. Siobhan had a birthday. I think it was Thursday or Friday of last week. Happy birthday, Siobhan. I trust you enjoyed it. Yes, my dear, we will have to pray for them for sure. Big shout out to Dwayne Connor up there in East End. I saw his wife at the grocery store yesterday, and she said, my husband is a huge fan of yours. He's always listening to the program. I said, tell him to listen in the morning. I'll give him a big shout out. So if you know Dwayne Connor, I think he works at the hotel up there, Moritz. Give him a shout out. Tell him you heard Sandy giving a shout out in CMR. We got fans all over the place. Trust me. Miss Elizabeth, buenos dias. Megan is here. Mina, how are you? Beautiful. Diamond Princess Sapphire, how are you? You know, you see a lot of people, speaking of grocery stores, that's where I saw Diamond Princess Sapphire the other day. You see a lot of people when you go to the grocery store, right? So, is Marshall here? Did I say hi to Marshall already? So Marshall, I was checking the mug guy yesterday, and he said that unfortunately the company he's using, I guess, to order my mugs this time around, because I'm trying somebody different. They don't do any drop shipments. Unfortunately, they can't pull it out and send it to you in the States. Sorry. Are you coming home anytime soon? Dion, good morning. Let me see if I can get this straight without butchering the language, because we don't want to be put in the same category as some other people. So we have, let me see here now. Let me see. Magandang Umaga. How's that for you? Good morning in Talago. Joy, good morning. Miss Jackie. Miss Grace, the beautiful Grace is here. Morning, my darling. Chris says Sandy looks yummy. Ooh, honey child. Try and behave yourself, Chris. I'm a married woman. And not just married for the sake of being married. Happily married. My husband would be like, what? What did that man say? Do you think that all men are like secretly jealous and they just never tell you? Is that a thing? Like a compliment, but then men are like, don't be looking at my wife a little bit too much, and don't use words like yummy to describe her, because they may not like that. Louis checks the local weather because he's into gardening. Absolutely. I'm looking particularly sassy today. Really? I haven't done anything particularly different. You know, the usual. What's going on with the sassy look? I don't know. You knew what I did do differently today. Good morning, Miss Beverly. Emma, how are you? I used a new face wash, and I wonder if maybe that's added a level of sassiness that I did not realize. I didn't have my regular one then that I usually use, but I used let me tell you what it was. It's that white cream one. It always leaves your face feeling tingly. Oh Lord, I haven't used it in so long. I like pulled it out of the cupboard. Comes in a little jar. Oh, what is it called again? It has a very unusual smell to it as well. It's not like the most pleasant odor in the world. I think it begins with an M. Anyway, I hadn't used it in a while, so maybe that's added some sassiness. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Thank you, Miss Mitzi, for joining in. Noxzema. Daisy, you're on the money. That's it. Yes, Noxzema. Child. I don't like the smell of it, but it does leave you all tingly. So sometimes you kind of feel like, Caribbean Sunshine, Dana, Roy. By the way, thank you guys so much for your positive comments yesterday with my daughter. I think she was just, I don't know what it was. She might have been coming down with a little something, but it's nothing like full blown. So she's actually fine. And you know, kids, they're miserable all night. They don't sleep. She literally slept right until the show ended. Like when I ended the show and I went to check on her, she was getting up. So perfect timing yesterday. She was just really tired, she said. And she felt like she was getting the sniffles, but not really. And she felt a little bit warm. But yes, she's now feeling well. The second she woke up, she seemed fine to me, running up and down like a crazy child. So we had a good day yesterday. I told you guys she's out of school until Friday. So, 5-year-old doesn't always get it. She's like, do you have to do your show this morning? And I said, yes. You got to teach children like responsibility through yourself, setting it by example. If every time, she doesn't want me to do something, or I don't feel like doing something, every morning I don't feel like doing a show, but it's a responsibility. So I said to her, that's mommy's job. That's what she does for work. And she's like, okay. Then she said to daddy, do you have to go to work? And he's like, yes. Child, we got to pay bills. Remember? She just got a little bluey toy. She's so excited about it. We went on Amazon. This was her treat yesterday. We went on Amazon, and she got to pick which bluey toy she wanted. So she got the little bluey house because she's got the little bluey Jeep. And of course, she's like, is it going to be here tomorrow? And I said, no, it has to come from over there. Miami is the only reference point she has. When I used to go to Miami, she's like, where's your Amy again? She calls it your Amy. And I said, it's far, far away. Louis says, love and jealousy go together. Deanon says, more cautiously territorial than jealous. I don't know. To me, it's all kind of the same thing. Like, I do think that if you're probably with someone and you don't have a little twinge of like, you got to keep an eye on them. Not jealous has a poor connotation. Like, you're not like crazy jealous about everybody and everything. But yeah, you're like, this is my woman. Don't get too close. Or my man or whatever. I guess that's part of the, that's part of the, that's part of, I guess, being in love with somebody, maybe. I don't know. Is there anybody who's in love that has no twinge of like, that's my lady or that's my man kind of thing? Johan says that Marlon needs to unplug the internet before the show gets out of hand again. # trust me. He's referring to Friday's show, folks. In case you missed it, what I've realized is Facebook actually has it blocked, I think, because I can see it and I can play it. And it has over 4,000 views. So I thought, oh, yeah, everybody can see it. But apparently when I send people the link, they can't see it. It's because that song I played. So I'm sure that Facebook will release it soon, because normally they, they're like, oh, you're using somebody else's music. But then once you tell them, hey, it's fair use, I only played a couple seconds of it, give me a break here, they normally release it without a problem. So I'm still waiting on that to happen. And then y'all be able to see it again. But the YouTube video is up with no problem. Good morning, Roderick. Wagwan. Roderick says, good morning, Madam Sandy. And good morning to everybody. Y'all stay safe. Rachel says, you okay after Ida, Rona, Ebanks? Oh my God. Roni. Ida, Roni. Dana, you just look like your package is tightly put together. Sharp. I can't quite say you're yummy though. Thank you. I'm not. Dana, the term yummy to describe someone is a little bit different, Chris, I must say. Chris is like, I'm going to eat you up. Yes, the Noxzema makes you feel very refreshed. Good morning, Miss Ann, joining us from Bodden Town. What's up, girlfriend? So glad you're home and you're here. Marva's in quarantine again. I feel like you've been living in quarantine, girl. Marva works for, let me get it right now. Is it Delta Airlines? And so she's been traveling a lot. She was recently in Honduras. And yeah, she has been busy. The deep blue sea says love and hate, including jealousy, are two horns of the same goat. Ciao. Is that pronounced Narki? Aria? Bacchi says, Bacci from Italy. Celine. Oh, hey, Celine. How are you? Are you in Italy at the moment? Yes, everybody's okay after Ida. Ida wasn't anything. Ida didn't really. We were all ready. We were like, oh my God, look at what was before Ida again? What was the storm before Ida? Oh my God, how quickly you forget. Whatever that storm was. That one was kind of like, woo, you pulled up all our trees, you tore off shingles, you tore down the fence. What are you doing? So Ida was gonna be Grace, thank you. Ida was gonna be a little bit stronger than Grace. So we were thinking, damn, we better be ready for this one. So yeah, turns out Ida was just giving us a little scare, shaking us up. Louis says self-control is not to be stupid about jealousy. Good morning, Steve. Len, how are you? James, how are you? I'm good. Everybody's good on this end. So good to see you. Marshall, yeah, I'm sad too. We'll find a way to get it to you. Don't worry. I'm sure somebody's going that direction that we can just give the mug to. Jennifer, thank you, Marva. Hey, John, Tracy, what's up? How are you doing? Grace says it was named after her, so I'm sure she's not going to forget it anytime soon. All right, folks, let's have a look at this situation with the minister. Is the minister ready? Let me check in with him and say, where you at there, Kenneth? All right, let's talk about it until he's ready to join in. Now, some people are saying that this is much ado about nothing. But I've received enough messages to know that on this program, I better mention it before y'all lose your damn minds. So here you know. I thought to myself, there's a Compass headline. So let me show you. Oh God, I can't remember who first sent it to me, but you guys have been sending me the Compass headlines, right? And I said to myself, Lord Jehovah, you mean to tell me that I'm actually going to have to read the Compass? Y'all know Zeta? What you send me the Compass headline for? So I was getting all kind of stuff like, oh, I don't know what the minister's talking about. This isn't right. This is a stunt that he pulled. So let me show it to you. Somebody sent me the link and I was really not wanting to read the Compass. But anyway, I guess sometimes you have no choice. Not that I inherently have an issue with the Compass, mind you, but I try, there's a number of reasons why I don't tend to read the competition. One is because they don't normally have anything that is of interest to me, especially. But in addition to that, if something is of interest to me, I don't want to read it and then have it clout my judgment, if that makes any sense. So oftentimes what ends up happening is you read something and then you have to write about it later. You know, the way that you write even, I think, is impacted by that. So here's what one person said. They sent me the link and they said, I hope they still trust him after that stunt. And I was like, what the hell is this? I read the headline, tourism minister, stipend reduction plan was, and they put in brackets, scare tactic. And they did quote, I did read the article and they did quote him in the article. And I thought, all right, clearly I need to go and watch this for myself. Yes? So, oh yes, she says she's in Italy. Beautiful, Miss Celine. Yeah, we're good, Roni. We're all good. Oh, she's back in a month. Beautiful. So, Louis, you have a spare mug? Well, link up, Marshall. So yes, the fiasco is happening with curbside pickup. Oh, child, Philip, today's not the day for the curbside pickup thing because I'm still trying to work my brain around how it will work personally. And to be honest, I haven't looked at it closely, so I don't want to really make any comments yet because I feel like I'm not informed enough to really give you guys an opinion. And believe it or not, around here, we like to be informed. We like to know what's going on. Child, some of those other talk show hosts, they just be saying crap just to say it. Anyway, here you know. Ali says PPM machinery at its best. Well, listen, sometimes when you hear something, you read it, right? And that headline is like, what? The minister said the stipend was a scare tactic, like reducing it. Remember when he said he was going to be reducing it? And I thought to myself, I need to go read what they're saying he said. And I read it and I saw the quotation and whatever. And I thought, all right, now I need context. Because context is everything. Y'all feel me? Context. How was it being said? Why was it being said? What was it in response to? The whole 9 yards. Actually, this is probably 12 yards. Is that your thing? 9 yards. The whole shebang. So I read it and then I went and listened to it. And I had to listen to it more than once to understand. In my mind, this was like, what's the issue? Let me be very frank. And this isn't because I like this government, which you guys know I'm giving them more than a fair shot, right? I'm really giving them an opportunity. And I do like this government because the alternative was hell for me. I was tired of the progressives after 8 years. And I was tired of the egos and the shutting people out because they're not on your bandwagon and they're not your BFF. There was a lot of things that really turned me off about the previous government. So I thought, we need a fresh start. And a coalition of the independents without the progressives at the lead was their best shot. And I still feel that way. But I also am in the space of media where I have to be impartial and fair, and I have to listen very, very carefully. So I put on my impartiality hat. I read what the compass said, and I said, okay. And then I listened. And then I was like, I need to listen to this again. To be honest, the first time I listened to it, I didn't even hear the word scare tactic. I had to listen 3 times. And then I was like, oh, there it is. Because the gist of what he was saying was not about this being a scare tactic. And I'm going to let y'all listen to it here in a second so you can hear it for yourself, because there's nothing like hearing something for yourself and understanding the context in which it was said. So the conclusion that I've made is that the compass is a little bit bored and, readership is down and all that sort of jive. Remember, they've been given, according to the streets, speculation, not confirmation, but this comes from a pretty good confirmation source. They have been given 6 months to turn the ship around, or threats of, sorry, oh my goodness, threats of shutting it down. John, you're right on the money, honey. That's exactly what this is. This is just a poor choice of words. Poor Kenneth. This is his first time as a minister. He's not been in the limelight quite this much, He's second term MP. He's always talking to his people. He's always out there connecting with them. But interview after interview and being in the limelight, CETA's got him under their thumb. They got the man under some pressure, y'all. Right? These hotels want it their way or no way at all. And Kenneth is trying to say, listen. Y'all got to understand that I'm here to represent the people of the Cayman Islands, not really the hotels per se. We need the hotel industry, yes. By the way, we still haven't gotten around to talking about our friend there over at the Ritz and how delusional he is about employment with his organization. But we're going to get there. So, yes, honey child, I do think it was a situation where he simply used the wrong words. But when you listen to what he has to say, you'll understand the context of what he was saying. So let us listen. And as they say, seek first to understand and then to be understood. Here we go.
Back to the cuts in December and November. the truth of the matter is, in December and November, I wanted people to understand that the government is not. I'm in a battle with the industry, tourism industry, the hotels, the condos, all these places, the restaurants. We have this thing where they go, oh, they don't want to hire Caymanians. Okay, fine. Now you have a minister that's not going to play no games with them, right? So I'm here. I told CETA, I told the president, Mark Langevin, I said, listen, my people sent me here because they don't like the nonsense they see. So he knows that. Even some of the CETA members don't even like me for it. That's fine. But I know what I was sent to do. So I had to sit down powwow and say, listen, you ain't getting no work permits until you start focusing on my people. And he said, okay, well, your people don't want to come get work. I said, fair enough. There's some of them out there who will sit around and just take the money and don't want to do nothing. I'm going to make sure that they come and get the jobs. So I said, listen, the stipend, we're here to protect people, but we're here to give you the opportunities to make sure you go and find them. And what I found based on the research, and this is happening globally, is that persons, when they're receiving monies, they're just reluctant to go find work. Yeah. So the indication was, exactly. So our indication were that in October period, we're starting to reopen. That means businesses are starting to plan to give people jobs. So, and they're going to start doing that hiring before the 14th. So the whole month of October, there's supposed to be jobs being filled up. So in my mind, I go, okay, then your money is going to start dwindling down. I suggest that you go and find some work. Now, granted, the truth is we don't know what the probabilities of the percentages of persons who are going to come. Are we going to get back to 10%? Are we going to get back to 100%? Are we going to get back to 50%? Now, I must say I did it as a scare tactic so they can get signed up. The political negativity from it forced me to pull my hand, because the truth is we intend to give them the $1,500 in November and December. So ultimately, my strategy for forcing them to go out and find work has been depleted now. But the thinking is they need to know that eventually this money is going to stop. And you need to find work. So I'm here fighting on your behalf. Now you go and sign up with work. I've told CETA and industry, you better highlight those jobs for my people and send them down to work so our Department of Work can match up the Caymanians with those jobs. That's where we're at in respect to this battle of labor.
And it's important for people to realize that fountain that is flowing, that's going to be shut off at some point in time.
That's why we want to open, right?
Okay, we have 4 callers queued up. Miss Susan, let's see.
All right. So you heard how he said it. Aliano says, don't play that video from the Compass. They will have FRU at your house, Miss Sandra, for infringement of content. The good news is he wasn't even on the Compass show. He wasn't on Crosstalk. He was actually on with OC on the what's OC show called again? On the Record. So yes, they were listening to On the Record, folks, and they pulled that out. Now, what is so interesting to me, and this is of course the world of media, folks, is that you hear somebody say, now he was on I don't know how long OC's show is. I think it might be an hour and a half or a couple hours, and they hear 2 words of that, which he fully explained why he had done it. He talked about how he's in there battling for, Caymanians in the industry, how the industry is saying Caymanians don't want to work in this industry. We don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. And he says, hold on a second. Yes, there are people on the stipend right now. We have to find a motivational tool. You see, that would have been a better phrase than scare tactic, but nonetheless, he's human, and he just pulled out the word scare tactic, motivational tool. It's the same damn thing, folks, except the Compass decides to jump on the phrase scare tactic. And of course, when we hear the word scare tactic, y'all going crazy without even listening to what the man actually said. I think it's a little bit ado about nothing, right? Their intent, and the bottom line is this, folks: your stipend is going to come to an end by hook or by crook. It don't matter, okay? This is the cold, hard truth version. And you see, this is the thing about politics, I know a lot of you have said to me, oh, Miss Sandy, you should run for politics. No. One of the reasons I tell y'all that I ain't running for politics again, because I've been down that road, is because some of y'all ain't got no damn sense. And when we have to tell you the cold, hard truth as a politician, I'm offended by the word scare tactic. You can't tell me that. You can't use that word. Oh, people better start looking at Kenneth with a side eye. if it was me telling you on the program that it's a scare tactic, I'll be like, oh, Sandy telling you the cold hard truth. You better get with the program. It's like you have a different way of looking at people because of who they are. Oh, this mic stand is driving me crazy. I done told my husband he better get me a new one. He better find it in the budget. That's all I can tell him. But it's funny how one person can say something using the same words and y'all interpret it one way, and then you get offended when it's your politicians, because y'all don't like politicians to tell you the cold hard truth. Y'all want them to like stroke your ego, pat you on the back, tell you what you want to hear, and sometimes what you want to hear is not in your best interest. So the bottom line, what the man is saying is some of y'all have gotten a little bit too comfortable receiving the stipend. We know that that's the cold hard truth, right? And so there will be this stepping down. They're not going to just rip it out from underneath you, but at some point they're going to step it down. Now, because tourism, cruise ship tourism still impacts a large portion of individuals, obviously you can't step it down for those people necessarily, because even if regular tourism, like stay over tourism, starts to return, those people are still very much impacted. But if you start to make some money in the little kitty, in your little pot, in your bank account, would it not be reasonable, number one, that your behind needs to get to work as the country reopens? That's the whole point of reopening the country. And number two, you can't continue to get money from a government that is not going to have any money to give you. So wake up. Not the best choice of words to say scare tactics, but at the same time, I do think it's blown a little bit out of proportion. Now, the minister's waiting. Olivia's here. My friend here says it's a silly stunt. You say one thing and do the next. I don't even think that that's what's happening. He was saying that, the public response, of course, he's here to explain, but this is what I got from what he said, is that the public response, and I think a lot of it, people were not understanding even initially what he was saying, that, listen, we're not going to just, y'all are like alcoholics. When you're an alcoholic, you can't just pull the alcohol straight out of your hand, because God knows you might have a coronary. You got to kind of ease people off, like drug addicts. Sometimes they put them on prescribed transitional drugs if you're trying to get off a heroin, a crack, right? You got to ease people into a situation. And because of logistical reasons, like you might be making a full salary, it might take months for us to kind of build back up to where we were, blah, blah, blah. There was a good logistical reason why it was like, you know what? We're going to step it down. Maybe we'll start at 50% reduction, and then we'll see how that goes for a couple months before we take the stipend away completely. That to me appears to be a very logical approach. Levon is here. Levon up in his feelings today, honey child. Here we go. Levon says, I don't believe a word Kenneth says. He is preparing you all. I come off the benefits and still won't be hired for long. No protection by law. Tricks, he admits, is a scare tactic. Okay, Levon. There's no intention but to support more cheap labor. Let me ask you a question, Levon. What was your job before COVID? What were you doing before COVID? I'm curious to know what part of tourism you were in. And then we can talk. Glenique says, I see nothing wrong with what he said. Ian, in other words, get your lazy ass up and go hunting. You starve to death or survive. I'm in favor of that kind of scare tactic, but I believe other scare tactics is being used to control people's freedom of choice. That's not right. But you shouldn't have the freedom of choice to receive a stipend and not try to look for work or not try to do something for yourself unless you have a condition that won't allow you to work. And that's why I'm asking Levon what he was doing beforehand. Otherwise, you're now paid to be a bum. Cold hard truth, John says, the funds will end. Anne says, thank you for playing that video. Hope Compass wasn't hoping for PR, being on CMR, laughing out loud. All right, folks, let's bring in the minister. I'm aware that they have cabinet today, so he's extremely busy. And all 283 of you are wanting to hear from him. Good morning, Minister Brian.
Good morning, Sandra, and good morning to Cayman Mile Road and the viewers. It's a pleasure to be on the show. I see I've created some excitement from yesterday.
Yes, honey child. I've been getting a lot of messages about this situation. And, it forced me to, number one, read the Compass, which, like I said, I wasn't happy about that. But, I got over it. And number two, to actually go and watch the video for myself. And when I watched the video, I got a very different feeling than, like I thought it was so interesting. Listen, you and I have been in media. We know how to headlines capture people and it makes you read it, right? And it gets people talking. And let me be very frank. You can't say this, but I can say it. It's been a long time that anyone has been talking about anything that Compass has published other than the McKeever video. And that was a tactic on their part. So I get it. I'm not trying to blame the Compass exactly, because I think desperation reaps, certain results, and they want readership. So they thought, wow, you actually said, and you did say it, to be fair to them, scare tactics, let's jump on that. And then when I read the article, it was kind of a letdown, because I was like, okay. And then I went and watched the video and I was let down even more. So tell us, what is this all about?
To be honest with you, Sandra, I'm not really sure. I respect the independence of media and journalism, so I am totally fine with whatever they choose to decide to write. Being a former journalist, I know the different angles that can be played on phrases and the like. To put it simply, as minister and the stipend falling under my ministry, it's important for me to try to balance this very important payment to persons in tourism. And I'm also tasked with the responsibility of, within a very difficult market, to get Caymanians back into an industry. Even before COVID, there was difficulties because many of the stakeholders within the tourism industry are not generational Caymanians. There seems to be some sort of attitude that don't support Caymanians, or your generational Caymanians, so to speak. So I was there battling with that, and as you know, the government's policy is putting Caymanians first. And so, while they're trying to negotiate for asking government to open up, we use that as a little bit of leverage to say, okay, we're going to try our best to open up as safely as possible and as quickly as possible, because your businesses depend on it. So, but in return, you have to focus more on Caymanians than on the work permits that you did before. And then, like I said in my comment, the battle was, many Caymanians don't want these jobs and so forth. And there is an element of truth to that, sadly, because of lack of focus in marketing of the benefits of tourism and the monies that you can make. So again, I'm tasked with, how do I motivate, how do I encourage persons to start going to focus on applying for these jobs as we're getting closer and closer to a potential reopening. So ultimately, as you've seen in many of my press conferences, my intention was everybody who's receiving the stipend to get signed up to work. That way, while I'm bargaining with industry, I hate to even use the word bargaining, because jobs are supposed to be Caymanian first, but the hard reality of things, it don't always work that way. So I'm using the leverage and the power that we have as a government to ensure that Caymanians come first. So how do I get away from the fact that they're saying, they're not going to come for the jobs, or they show up and they don't want it? Now, this doesn't happen for everybody, but unfortunately, sometimes a small percentage reflects on the larger percentage, and this is what they use as an excuse. So I wanted to ensure that everybody gets signed up and start to put their names forward, particularly those who are receiving the stipend. And this is at the backdrop of many studies, particularly in California and New York, where many of the hotels are having serious issues with getting people back into hospitality. And it's because of the grants that the governments give that it's almost better for you not to go and find a job, because you can live on the grants that you give. So obviously we don't want that. We want people to get back to some level of normalcy. We're paying close to $6 million every month on the stipend. Now, we're going to do whatever it takes as a government to assist people through the pandemic, but we have to have an end goal. And hence the reason, the strategy of working with industry, getting Caymanians signed up. When the jobs come available, you switch it out, you reduce the stipend, and you put Caymanians back into those jobs. Now, this is not an absolute formula, because we don't know how the pandemic is going to play out. We're not sure how quickly we're going to get to the 80%. things are looking a bit sticky with overseas, particularly in Florida and many other states, which is our main source market for tourism. We don't know how heavy the tourism is going to come back. It's not going to come back straight to 100% like what we had before. So we know that many workers are not going to go back to the income they once had. And particularly, like you highlighted, cruise tourism isn't coming back right now. So we know that we're going to have to help people. But we need to motivate people, particularly those percentages of people who ain't wanting to do anything because they're confirmed with the 1500 and they're finding ways to survive even in this very high cost of living in Cayman. So yes, there is a motivation element, and maybe I use a bad choice of words politically. One learning curve for me and my first time as minister, scare tactic. Maybe if I was politically correct and said this is a motivator to get people to go out and work. By way of recognizing there's an eventual end to the stipend. But that's all it was. And I'm not going to dwell on it because I know that if that's all they can hang on to for me as a member of government, then that means I'm not doing so bad. But ultimately, the most important thing is that it's important that as a government, we encourage persons to look for jobs. It's important that we fight to stand that they become the first persons to get the jobs. And if there's not jobs available because of market factors, that we continue to support them. That's the number one priority. So if there are people who are sitting at home not wanting to, take the initiative to go out to find work, I mean, am I supposed to take your taxpayers' money and the public's taxpayers' money and continue to provide for them if they're not taking the initiative on their own? I think most people would say no. So we were not getting into that until the new year. We're not going to get into assessing whether you're working or you're not working. We're just hoping that people would do the right thing. The sad truth is we have over 3,000 people on the stipend. It's going to be close to 4,000 very soon after this new cohort. And there's still over 1,000 people who haven't signed up for work. And that's a sad indicator because I'm saying, and this is after the amendments to the work website where I said, okay, even if you have your own job, sign up just to tell me that you have your own job and you're not looking for a job, you're just waiting for the market to open. But there's still a large amount of people who are not signed up. Now, I don't know what the reasons are why they're not signed up, but naturally looking at it on the face of it, it looks as if you don't want to sign up to the department that is responsible for assisting you to get employment back. You can start to see that some of the hotels are slowly to hire people back. They're doing interviews and the like. And I'm encouraged by that because people are getting more confident about the reopening. I know many people are concerned about what the reopening means, and the government is trying to do its best right now to go out there and try to market how safe we're trying to maintain things with this reopening strategy. But that's a different thing. We're talking about the implications of the word scare tactic. Maybe it's a bad choice of words, but ultimately it's my job to encourage persons to get signed up because we need to get back to normal, which is Caymanians working, providing for themselves. But most importantly, we'll continue to support them in every way we can for those who are in need. And that's what's most important. Some people are going to take it out of context, and I understand that. That's politics. It's a part of the game. I've learned over the last 8 years that you're not gonna please everybody, and there are some people out there who don't support this administration and will try to use something. Yes, so I'm fine with that.
And of course, that would include. I'm not saying this is true of the Compass necessarily, but that would include members of the media. They may have a preference from one administration over the next, and it is what it is. That's one of the realities.
That may be true, or it could just be a journalist who goes. I mean, I can see myself doing the same thing, which is, the strongest line. That's what you were taught in media. Find the thing that is most catching to attract the readership or the listenership or the viewership. And scare tactic sounds odd for a politician. You're supposed to be more diplomatic in your delivery and words. And yes, I am not your traditional politician, and I'm always going to try to be as blunt and straightforward as possible and not be your typical diplomat. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I think people appreciate my realism and how I approach things. And yes, the fact is there are some people who are going to take advantage of the system. I have evidence where people are applying like under different names after they've applied before. So there's a lot of people going to try to take advantage of the system. My job is to protect the try to protect the people's taxpayers' money, because this is your money that we're using. This is when you go to buy your goods. This is the duties we take at the importation when we don't have a lot of money. So there are the majority of people, I would say 95%, 98% of persons who are receiving the stipend are people who genuinely need it. But there are some people who try to use the system, and it happens everywhere in the world. So my job is to protect it, and I'm going to do my best to do so. And I want everybody to know that there's nothing malicious here. It's just to encourage persons to do the right thing, and we will continue to be there all the way through.
All right, Minister, we appreciate it. We'll go through and read some of your comments. Now, listen, all 328 of you heard that. Go spread that like wildfire so that we can make sure that we get the facts out there. And I'm going to read some of your comments, Levon. I have some people messaging. Now 330 of you, it should make the rounds. Let's just put it that way. We've got some information for you, Levon, that you might find incredibly interesting. Minister, thank you so much. We know that you're on your way to Cabinet this morning, so we appreciate you taking a few moments. Looks like you're actually outside the government building. Looks like you're at work already.
Yes, I'm at work already. I was actually upstairs, and I decided I don't want to be around the civil servants here in the political talk because I don't like to expose them in any way. So I ran downstairs outside in the beautiful Cayman morning sun to talk to you. Before I go, though, Sandra, I want to remind the public how important it is to be prepared for this hurricane season. As you know, I always try to push protections of being prepared for hurricane weather. It's been a long time since we've had anything severe. Grace recently, as much damage as it's done, wasn't a hurricane, even though that's debatable. The very last of it was super strong, could have been a category 1. But I'm truly concerned that this hurricane season is going to be one that's very active. I want everybody to do everything you can to prepare.
Yes.
Check your housing insurance. I was just thinking to myself last night, oh my God, I gotta go check make sure my house insurance is up.
Yeah.
Or do I have enough plywood? Are my shutters working well?
Too, now that you mention it.
All of these little small details, because it's so important that the aftermath of anything serious, how quickly we can get back to normal. And obviously we pray and hope every day that God continues to protect our country. But if you just look on the news and see what New Orleans is going through with the global pandemic and everything that we've been through, it would take something like that to make things get worse. And absolutely. I just want us to be prepared. And remember, you are responsible for your brother, and you are your brother's and sister's keeper. So do your checks of your neighborhood. I was quite upset with myself as I was analyzing this thing. I said, why do I not know every name on my street? I need to know everybody who lives on my street, because it's a life worth saving and worth protecting. So go and check, and it's an opportunity to get to know who you are, because in chaos and in crisis is when human beings get together closer. So prepare yourselves that you can fight any natural disaster or any pandemic or anything together as a people. So prepare yourself. I thank you for the opportunity to talk about this, Sandra. Yes, I really appreciate your viewers for taking your time to listen to me. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and get back to your job, the people's work.
Here's a little advice from Al Ray. He said, Kenneth, tell the hotels as soon as the hotels hire more Caymanians, you'll be able to open the borders. Take that for a tactic.
That has actually been, I want to share something with you, all right? And I don't think that people quite understand some of the difficulties that happens within negotiations, particularly with the major players. And I literally was on the phone just over the weekend where some of the hotels are saying that, because of the vaccination verification, many of the reservations, people can't meet the mandate, because in the United States, as you know, not everybody is securely verified. So they'll have their own private doctor. The doctor will write a letter. We can't just trust letters. We need to have more verification. And they're getting a lot of cancellations. Right. So one of the major hotels said, while I was doing these negotiations, said, well, Kenneth, we had hoped to have 450 jobs to 500 jobs but with all these cancellations all the way into February, we may only be able to hire 100 people. And I said,
well,
all right, I have
98
to.
of them better be Caymanians.
Yeah, that's exactly what the response was. I was like, listen, I'm not going to go back. I said, you were saying that you want to open and you're going to have X amount of jobs. I said, fine. You get our people hired first, and any excess amount of work that you need that you can't find a skill set for amongst our people, then we would support. And I'll talk to the minister in charge, whose work, Minister, the Honorable Deputy Premier, to say, listen, industry needs the support. They need the extra labor because you need manpower to carry out the services of the tourism product. You have to recognize there's just not enough Caymanians for it. But you have to deal with your family first, your Caymanians first, and then others. So when he said there was a reduction in the numbers of expectations for hiring because the cancellations and their projections are decreasing more than normal, I said, all right, I can't tell you what to do. I can't tell you or talk to you about your business hiring in respect to what your numbers are going to be. But I can tell you that we have the leverage of control over the labor market. And if you are only willing to now hire 100 people, there has to be 100%, because I can't justify to the people of this country allowing you to have any work permits unless it's a skill set that is not available in the Cayman Islands by a Caymanian. And very seldom there's not a Caymanian available, particularly in the tourism industry, because we do dwell a lot on experience and training, though we know that it's a skill set that many people have years and years of experience. Now, I agree that there has to be a certain attitude towards service. You have to want to serve people. You have to be happy-go-lucky. You have to remember that you are a servant of people. That's what tourism is persons who want to relax, and you take away their stress, and you're serving them. You're good morning, sir. Good afternoon. Can I help you? Can I get you this? Can I do that for you? What do you want on your menu? Is your bed okay? Is your jet ski okay? Did you enjoy your day? You have to have that attitude for it, right? In order to be a good tourism ambassador and worker. Now, not everybody is like that. Some people just grumpy. I can't bother this goddamn foolishness, man. They think they're the boss or what. You can't have that attitude in the tourism industry. So yes, there is limited Caymanians for it, but there are a lot of them. And I know, matter of fact, there's generational Caymanians who built the tourism industry, and many Caymanians who became Caymanians, many persons who became Caymanians over the years to understand what the Cayman kind is all about. So they're here. It's just their job and the government's job to assist them finding them. Hence the reason are working together with the work department, work with the C, that is, and industry to make sure they're in the job. So it is difficult working with them, but in respect to industry, because it is cheaper labor from overseas, and they're more willing to do as they're told. I hate to say it like that, but if you were from Bangladesh and you're 500,000 miles away from your home, that may be too many miles, but and you're on a work permit, you don't want to be in a situation where you lose your job and stuck on a little island. So if the pressure is really, really hot, you're less likely to speak back or stand for your rights, as opposed to a Caymanian who goes, listen, I ain't fair. You're kind of talking to me a little rough. I know we have a problem to solve here, but can you be respectful? So there is an attitude of foreign labor is more attractive from many different skill sets, from costings, from attitude and control. And I hope that that's not what we have to have in the environment of the labor market and tourism. But now that the pandemic is the way it is, and you have the government the way it is, which is Caymanian first driven, you need to tweak your employment model, because this government is not playing games with it. So much so that I'm even getting beaten up for scare tactic comments. But I'm committed, regardless of what people believe, that this government is going to prove that we're adamant about putting Caymanians first. The most important thing is get the economy up and going in a safe way. So anyway, I'll blabber on, as you know I will. I'll leave you there and let you get on with the show. I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to talk to them. You guys have a wonderful, God bless day, and remember to take care of each other.
All right. Thanks, Honorable Minister of Tourism and Transport, Kenneth Bryan, folks. Again, just clarifying the term scare tactics. Again, for those of you who might have tuned in a little bit late, I want to play the video again. So this was the headline. Let me just remind you what this is all about in case you tuned in late. This was the headline that had people going. I had a number of people message me yesterday afternoon after the story went up, and they said, "What is this? Stipend reduction plan with scare tactic?" And you know, I'll have you listen to it, and then obviously, based on the comments I've seen so far, most of you don't even think, like you said, poor choice of words, perhaps. But the point that he's trying to make is that the money is going to come to an end. And this was a bit of a wake-up call. Maybe that would have been a better choice of words, to basically say, you know what, it's coming in terms of the stipend reduction and eventually removal. Now, I saw someone the other day say, why do we have to remove the stipend at all? Did y'all hear how many millions did he say every month that they're spending on this stipend? That's a lot of money that the government doesn't have. OMG, y'all not getting it. You know, I know y'all in la la land, but let's listen once again, folks, to the comments. Here we go.
Respect to the cuts in December and November. The truth of the matter is, in December and November, I wanted people to understand that the government is not, I'm in a battle with the industry, tourism industry, the hotels, the condos, all these places, the restaurants. We have this thing where people go, oh, they don't want to hire Caymanians. Okay, fine. Now you have a minister that's not going to play no games with them, right? So I'm here. I told CETA, I told the president, Mark Langevin, I said, listen, my people sent me here because they don't like the nonsense they see. So he knows that. Even some of the CETA members don't even like me for it. That's fine. But I know what I was sent to do. So I had to sit down powwow and say, listen, you ain't getting no work permits until you start focusing on my people. And he said, okay, well, your people don't want to come get work. I said, fair enough. There's some of them out there who will sit around and just take the money and don't want to do nothing. I'm going to make sure that they come and get the jobs. So I said, listen, the stipend, we're here to protect people, but we're here to give you the opportunities to make sure you go and find them. And what I found based on the research, and this is happening globally, is that persons, when they're receiving monies, they're just reluctant to go find work. Yeah. So the indication was, exactly. So our indication were that in October period, we're starting to reopen. That means businesses are starting to plan to give people jobs. So, and they're going to start doing that hiring before the 14th. So the whole month of October, there's supposed to be jobs being filled up. So in my mind, I go, okay, then your money is going to start dwindling down. I suggest that you go and find some work. Now, granted, the truth is we don't know what the probabilities of the percentages of persons who are going to come. Are we going to get back to 10%? Are we going to get back to 100%? Are we going to get back to 50%? Now, I must say I did it as a scare tactic so they can get signed up. The political negativity from it forced me to pull my hand, because the truth is we intend to give them the $1,500 in November and December. So ultimately, my strategy for forcing them to go out and find work has been depleted now. But the thinking is they need to know that eventually this money is going to stop. And you need to find work. So I'm here fighting on your behalf. Now you go and sign up with work. I've told CETA and industry, you better highlight those jobs for my people and send them down to work so our Department of Work can match up the Caymanians with those jobs. That's where we're at in respect to this battle of labor.
And it's important for people to realize that fountain that is flowing, that's going to be shut off at some point in time.
That's why we want to open, right?
Okay, we have 4 callers queued up. Ms. Susan, let's see.
All right, folks. So I hope that that's a little bit more crystal clear in terms of exactly how the term scare tactic was being used and what was actually meant by that. What a hot mess. Let me read some of your comments. So Lavon is saying that he's having a hard time finding employment. Catherine says, do not approve any work permits across the board. That's for tourism and the financial sector. Well, there shouldn't be work permits approved across the board. Each work permit has to be justified on its own merits, first of all. Levon says, why are we acting like tourists and global citizens aren't coming in? Travel time shows that thousands have been coming, many with COVID, and thousands are coming back as we speak from the jobs, while Kenneth parade around with the right words, no proof and security. Okay. Carson says, bless up. The Honorable Kenneth Bryan, one love, bro. Do what you got to do. Miss Ann says, good job, Kenneth. Zambula says, help at Works is zero. They're useless. Now, let us address Works for a second here, folks, because I think Zambula makes a very valid point. Works has been not working, full pun intended, for quite some time. Works is a dismal failure, according to 99.9% of employers and Caymanians. They need to go in there and rework Works and then rename it something else, because that was a poor choice of names that the last government decided to pick. And listen, Works hasn't worked forever. This is nothing new. They need someone who understands not getting people to work from a philosophical or theoretical perspective or an academic perspective, but from a practical perspective and what that requires. And, you know, a little bit more teeth. Is what also is required. So yeah, I mean, I agree with sentiments, and we've discussed it on this program more than on one occasion that Works isn't working. Levon says they wonder why people don't want to sign up. That department is an astronomical failure and facade. I guess that's a low two and feeling too, Sandy. Your team pack A. How about push them to start a national training hiring initiative through legislation? Well, you'd be surprised, and that the training that has been offered through tourism that nobody's attending. Did you just hear me, Levon? There are training opportunities on a regular basis that is being offered through tourism. Now, mind you, they're probably advertising over the compass. That may be why you have no clue that it's going on. I don't know. I do think that there needs to be a better way of getting the word out there about these training opportunities, but it's not that they're not having any. That isn't the problem. It's maybe getting the word out there to people to let y'all know that it's actually happening. In fact, just last week before the storm hit, I think it had to be postponed. There was some additional training initiative that I had heard of that was connected to Works, all Caymanians and permanent residents who were seeking employment. They were having this job registration drive, and they've done a number of them. They did one on August the 20th at the West Bay Public Library. They're supposed to be doing one on August the 25th, but I think that one got postponed. This was going to be at the Westin Ballroom. That one got postponed because of the storm. How many of y'all out there looking for a job knew about this? You see, this is where they do need a little bit of help with the PR element. Okay? Every single person. I just dropped my report. Hold on one second, Levon. I'll come back to you about your statistics question. Every single person, folks, who signed up for the stipend was supposed to register for, sorry, folks. There we go. Every single person, I'm actually sitting down today. Not today, I just sat down actually, but every single person who is registered for Works, right? I registered and receiving the stipend should now be registered for Works. Now, some of y'all wouldn't even do that. These are people that we're talking about right here who aren't even motivated to register to Works and to try and find a job. 1,000 people, y'all better get your behinds in gear and get back to work. Now, here you cold, hard truth moment. Extra cold, extra hard. They should have contact numbers for all of you. They certainly have your bank account information so they can deposit your money, right? So they should have contact information. They should have WhatsApp. And they should have an email contact for you. And every single time they have a job registration drive, They have training available. All of that information has to be disseminated via WhatsApp to every single person. DOT, the ministry, I'm giving you some free advice on how to engage those stipend people and anybody in tourism who's looking for employment, and Caymanians is looking for tourism, right? So you send them the WhatsApp messages. Yes, you use the usual social media channels. You use CMR. Heck, use the Compass, because there might be one or two that actually are Compass fans. You spread it wide and far. Yes? Then people like Lavon wouldn't be in a position to sit here and say that there has been no training initiatives, because there has been. You just don't know anything about it. And that's a problem. Now, Lavon, I haven't seen you here in a minute. So I don't personally know if you've been incognito, what you've been up to. But, I'm here to inform you that they actually have been training initiatives available. But I do think there's an issue with how that information is being disseminated and put into the public arena. And like I tell people, if the tree falls in the woods and nobody don't hear it, people just assume the tree didn't fall. If people don't know what your message is, then they don't think you got a message. Marketing 101. Kenneth is the boss, says Keisha. Alice says, I appreciate your hard work, Kenneth. Nicholas says he's not concerned with training new workers to take up jobs. His aim is to get the displaced former tourism workers who already have training experience back into the industry. No one is perfect, but Minister Brian is trying his best. I suggest those of you who are doing nothing but criticize and take a seat and shut up. Nicholas, it is a combination, I think, of the two. So it's not so much left field or so much right field. But at the end of the day, there are people who need to be upskilled and who need to be trained, even in tourism. And so that has to happen, even though they were in the tourism industry. Things have changed, right? I don't know what Lavon's talking about. Scare tactics was you showing your true colors, PA. Is that supposed to say Pierre or Pa? And is or a localism? It shows your thought process and or lack of media and linguistic training. Oh, Lavon, do yourself a favor. Policy, not scare tactic. Make policy and enforce them, says John. Stipend is more than the hotels pay, so some people are comfortable with it. Well, a lot of people say, listen, $1,500 ain't no money to me, blah, blah, blah. Well, $1,500 isn't any real significant money, but if you're doing nothing for it, who else gets paid $1,500 CI to do nothing? So I think that there are some people who will sit down and say, damn, you know how much I got to hustle in tourism to make $1,500? Yeah, it's not going to pay all my bills, but at the same time, I can also kick up my feet and do nothing to get the $1,500. That's why I don't think that should have ever been allowed. We've had cleanup efforts. We've had all kind of stuff that those people could be doing, helping Meals on Wheels, delivering food. They could be helping NPOs. They could have been put to work in more ways than one. Now, I know we've had the social distancing and we were in lockdown, all that kind of stuff. So coming out of the barn, that would not have been possible. But those months that we were in complete lockdown, in my opinion, the Progressives government could have been spending some time figuring out how to utilize those people, even if it was in a volunteer capacity, who are receiving the stipend, so that you don't get lazy. Listen, I have been unemployed and at home doing nothing before. And so I can understand how you get very comfortable staying home. Some of y'all afraid of people after a couple months of being at home, right? Your anxieties kick in and you don't even want to be around people, much less tourism. So on the one hand, folks, I can fully understand that. But I can also understand the more you put yourself out there, that increases your confidence level, right? And your ability to interact with people. It reminds you that you got to get up every morning. It puts you into routine. And I think that is extremely important. All right. Roni says, good morning, Minister Brian, I fully support you in the way you're thinking of opening up the islands. Yes, people are not going back to work if they're getting free money. Al Ray, we read your comment to the minister, and he said that's basically what he has told them. So good. Laws are changed. What laws are you referring to, Levon? How about financial reports of people receiving the stipend? Name and amount received, status too. John, you know that those information commissioner people coming for you, child. They're gonna say data protection. You can't reveal that information. In fact, you can't even collect it. This data protection law is really, really serious. You know, y'all don't understand the implications of that one, talking about laws. John says, I think he's referring to Levon. Understand your bitterness, but why don't you get with the tourism program? And then if you're not successful with this government, then you can really talk down on this government. Come on, man, get with the positive program. Negativity will not feed you or your family. Mr. Errol is here for it. He says, good morning, Mr. Brian. So true. Ms. Darlene says, with no disrespect, help our Caymanians first. Is that grassroots Caymanians or the Caymanians by status must be taken care of first? Well, here's a cold hard truth of Darlene. Miss Darlene, the law doesn't see them any differently. So this is why y'all need to be careful when you're engaging in certain things like marrying people that are bums and then giving them the opportunity to become Caymanians. And then you got a problem on your hands. Because legally, once they have status, you can't treat them no differently, whether they're paper Caymanian or not. That's the reality of the situation. And so the minister, heaven forbid he ever told you that he felt any differently about a paper Caymanian versus a non-paper Caymanian. That would be splashed all over the Compass headlines too, making a man look bad. Because legally he can't do that. That would be discriminatory, right? Now, a few weeks back, we started a conversation about Caymanians and tourism, and we were specifically talking about the Displaced Tourism Employee Survey Report and why so many people, especially younger people, are not working and not attracted, none at all, to the tourism industry. We were supposed to have a second day of conversations. I must admit that all sorts of topics have come up in the interim, and we have since, gotten a little bit sidetracked on this particular discussion. But I do want us to pick up the mantle again because it's a very important conversation. But Levon, to your point, and thank you, Ms. Corrine, she's been working in tourism for over 30 years. John confirms what I just said. It doesn't matter how you got your Caymanian status, not in terms of what we're talking about here today. It matters sometimes, like certain things, whether it can be revoked or whatever. But Levon's point about wanting statistical information and so on, Levon, have you gotten your hands on this report? It is the Displaced Tourism Employee Survey Report from July of 2021, a little bit over a month ago. The last go round of signing people up for the tourism stipend, the government said, you have to fill out the survey. And I think they got most people do it because they made it contingent on you getting your money. Y'all need to go read it. There's tons of, we can pull it up on screen because we do have it electronically, but I just want to show this. I still have it on my desk. So, I have not forgotten about it because y'all know I don't like to keep too much clutter on my desk, although my husband would disagree with you. I don't like to keep too much clutter, but this report is here on my desk. And Levon, it has lots and lots of statistical information. So you need to go get yourself a copy. Like I said, I don't know why it still has draft on it. They should remove the draft because this is the final version. But it has a lot of information in here and a lot of things that we can dissect and have by way of conversation. Let me stick it up in my little cubby hold up here, child. Because I'm not finished with this conversation, and I do want us to certainly return to that. Levon, changing laws is one thing. You can't always just change a law as easy as you think or enforce it. And sometimes the laws are there. The law already says that Caymanians should be getting a preference, and the mechanisms already in place that Caymanians should be getting job opportunities and preferences first and foremost before anybody else. The law is one thing, and what actually happens in the real world and the practicalities of the situation are a whole other situation. So these people are very conniving, and they find a way to work around the laws. You understand? And that's a problem. And so this requires ongoing dialogue, as the minister has said, with the industry, with industry stakeholders, to let them know what position this particular minister of tourism will be taking. And if he says to them, if you got 100 position, what does that song say? I got 99 something, but something, not one of them or something. How does that saying go? I got 99 problems, but whatever. Listen, you got 100 positions. 98 of them should be filled by Caymanian. Okay. Now, our little friend over at the Ritz, the general manager, I can't remember what the hell his name is now, but I still don't get it for y'all, because that's a conversation we will have. He seems a little bit delusional, telling me at the last press briefing where he was in attendance that they have an excellent reputation for hiring Caymanians. I said, Lord have mercy. Who been lying to this man? Because he don't have a clue. He not been listening to the hard, cold truth from anybody. No, sir. Delusional bad. Miss Ann says tourism skills and attitude should be taught and promoted in her school. Well, child, we went over all of that the last time when we were talking to young people who said that they don't have an interest. 6 million each month. That is, and yes, that's KYD. And a couple shows ago, someone was saying, well, don't open up because we haven't run out of money yet. I'm like, how do y'all budget? Now, I am not a financial guru. And I must admit, over the years, me, myself, had to learn the hard knocks, how to handle my money. But, it's not that I don't understand the concepts necessarily. It's when it comes to the practical, like pulling back on certain things, you're like, oh, God, I got to really budget for this? Yeah. So when someone says, don't open up the country because we're not broke yet, but the projections are that we're going to be broke, I'm like, are you listening to what the government is saying? The projections are that we're already in the red. What are you talking about? You must wait until you're actually in the red to then try to figure it out when you know that that's the direction you're going. Honey child, that's called financial forecasting. It's coming. You prepare and you adjust based on what's coming. Joshua, hello, Joshua, says, you mean jobs for foreigners or job for Caymanians? Because these suckers are going to want their own kind to come in. There's some truth to that, Joshua. Now, listen, there's a lot of issues with works. Like I said, it just isn't working. And until, in my mind, you fix those issues, right? Employers will always have an excuse as to why they cannot hire Caymanians. And I've seen it. I've seen work send people for like a landscaping job who have no experience, no knowledge of like nothing. There has been a mismatching of skill set on the side of works. So you have people who themselves are working within the works department who don't seem to have a clue how to do that job. And I don't know exactly what the manager's doing, but you need some practicality. The system itself, half the time it's not working. You can't log in, you can't register, you can't do this, you can't do that. And you know how long we've been complaining about fix the damn system. Oh, it's down again today. But you know what we're going to do on this program? Because we're all about being very practical on this show, is very soon I am going to register myself. I'm going to go and register for works. And I want to see what the quirks are, and I'm going to do it right on this program. And we're going to go through it step by step. I want to see what's involved in the registration process, how cumbersome they've made it. And we're going to log in and start checking jobs and see if I can get logged in every time I want to log in. And we're going to start calling out. Y'all paid some big money, I know, to get somebody to build this website for works, this web portal, and it doesn't work. Well, you need to get them to fix it. It's not incredibly user-friendly from the feedback I've gotten from people. And so it needs to be fixed. Now, I'm also hearing from employers that work permits are getting deferred and or turned down on the basis that a Caymanian has applied for the job, et cetera, et cetera. But the employers are saying, what? We didn't get a Caymanian that applied on our end. We don't see the applications there. And so, like I said, the system really does appear to be broken. And Sasha wants to know, can they force temporary work permits to be advertised on Jobs Cayman, please? Oh, that's a good question. Now, I feel like I have invited them on the program before and they haven't come on. And I would love to know where they're at. But I'm not 100% sure because sometimes I invite so many people. So let me follow up with that because that is a very good question. Edith is frustrated by going to jobs when they're not really hiring. They're just going through the steps and wasting your time. A lot of that happens. Sasha agrees that they don't know how to match people. There's some definite improvements in the system that need to be had. Now, I was just thinking about this. Over the weekend, there were 4 people who were placed in quarantine between Saturday and Sunday. Some were hotel employees because there were quarantine breaches, like breaches in protocol about them cleaning rooms when apparently I think they bring in the experts first, like say Reliable Industries, for example, who know how to disinfect a COVID situation or potentially COVID situation before the regular cleaners go in there. And that hasn't been done. So those people now up at Moritz had to be put in quarantine. I emailed the travel time people about this, and all now I'm still waiting on a response from Cassandra and her team. Now, when I start to call out names, there's a reason why I'm having to do so. And the reason is because when someone sends you an email with a media query, the least you need to do is respond to it. You don't ignore media queries. So I'm asking about the 4 people between Saturday and Sunday who were put into quarantine. What is the situation there? And are you having anything to say to the media? And specifically, we're asking you directly for a reason. People don't take kindly to being ignored, especially when we're trying to obtain information on behalf of the public. Damien, like I was saying earlier, yes. Marva says many of these individuals have other jobs right now, factual, but they're still receiving the stipend. This must come to an end as the government cannot sustain the country until tourism is back to 100%. That's why we're reopening the borders, folks. It's not like we have a choice, really. We rely on tourism as one of our 2 golden pillars of the economy. Thank you so much, Sanya, for confirming that she has attended training courses. She's done 5 now through Works and gotten her certificates. She says lots of us older tour operators do attend. Where's everybody else, I guess, is the question. Quincy says, for the record, tourism ambassadors at the airport don't get health insurance or pension simply because we're independent, part-time contracted workers. $11 per hour. Who do you work for? I mean, they're paying you an hourly. You're saying you're independent, so they're telling you that you're self-employed? Even if you're part-time, the part-time part doesn't matter. You should still be eligible for pension and insurance. So, and what you've said to me there, Quincy, the term that stands out is independent. That means you have a business license to be an ambassador and they're just recruiting your services. I'm a little bit confused by that because somebody should be paying pension insurance for you. So who do you actually get a paycheck from? That is a very unusual situation. Cece says, I recently went to an interview for a well-known business place And before entering the actual interview, was told by one of the interviewers that they had already put in for a permit for someone, but immigration turned it down for them to interview Caymanians for the position. So they basically rushed all the interviews because they had a timeline to get back to immigration. Sigh, now tell me, how am I supposed to feel being told that before entering an interview? You know what? Let me tell you how you're supposed to feel, Cece. You're supposed to go in there and give the interview 100%. Then you turn around and you email immigration saying, this is what I was told going into the interview. So imagine if they're telling people that. We do feel like they're just going through the steps. And I did my best. And I feel like I had a stellar interview. You may or may not, but that was your feeling on the situation. And now immigration can keep a very keen eye on the available candidates that applied for the job, given their experience, et cetera, et cetera. Because there are times, without a doubt, that they're just going through the motions. Cab says half of these people complaining regarding the hiring of expats would never actually go to work in tourism. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Darlene, you know what is so interesting about this, Darlene? When you say to put in a law for a fair and livable wage for a grassroots Caymanian, you can't. It's across the board. And I want to have the good Yale professor back on the program. I'm sure right now that he is in the midst of getting ready probably for a new semester and is quite busy. But we need to have him back on the program to talk about the logistics of this concept of just, people say just increase minimum wage as though it has no impact on anything else. And if you don't see the knock-on effect of increasing the minimum wage, trust me, when the cost of living goes up, then I want to hear what the argument is going to be again, because you're not going to put yourself in a better position necessarily. Yeah, I'm interested to know who Quincy actually works for, because when he says independent, does that mean that he's self-employed? That doesn't make any sense. That's not the kind of contract that you'd be self-employed with. Buenos dias, Alba. Al is here. Thank you, Al. Al talks about a decent livable wage. Quincy, not touching this one, Marva. I pick my battles wisely these days, but you've already touched it. You've already brought it up. So now we're all curious to know exactly how that works. Maria says there's no time for job hunting. If you have one, you'd be grateful. Mr. Bryan is trying his hardest to get people a job, even foot work for people. But they're very happy staying at home once the stipend continues. Laziness. I think that that's true for some people, not everybody. Mm-hmm. So Patricia says $1,500 is not enough. Janet says increase the minimum wage. Quincy says wealthy Cayman Islands keep dishing out cash. We're grateful. What wealthy Cayman? You mean the government that is going in the red? You see, that's a problem. All right. Ms. Brenda, good morning. Says that's not for labor to sort out. That's for the employer to do fair hiring. Who's the contractor? Aren't they hired under tourism? Like, yeah, I mean, Quincy, you've obviously piqued her interest about what's really going on here. But, you know, there are existing laws in place as it relates to pension and insurance that should be followed. And if they're not, then we need to know. Well, it's not a good point, Quincy. We need to actually know the answer. Because if there's an employer out there who isn't paying by law, then, you know, that's kind of important information. Brenda, the reason why that wouldn't work is because we don't have enough Caymanians who are interested. I mean, here's the thing. You can't mandate Caymanians only for specific industry unless you know for sure. You've got all the Caymanians who want to work in that industry, and you can't force people. So when we were talking to the young people the other day about why aren't you interested in tourism, they're like, I don't really care about tourism. They want to do flight school, some want to be accountants, lawyers, whatever. They have their views and other things. So until we can get into like the middle school, not high school, because by then most kids kind of know what they're interested in, get into the middle school, start doing internships with some of these tourism-based businesses, encouraging young people to explore the world of tourism. Until we go that far and we start doing those things to encourage them, I'm afraid that, piquing people's interest in that industry is just never going to happen. And if you don't have the numbers, you can't tell people you have to hire a Caymanian and then they turn around, there's no Caymanians there. Now, if you have Caymanians who are interested, willing to work, willing to learn, et cetera, and we've had a few on the program, then that's a very different situation. But we have to get there first. And I don't personally think we're there. Quincy says CIAA should have provided us with some form of health insurance and pension contributions. I'm a little bit confused by this. So your employer was CIAA, which is the Cayman Islands Airport Authority. Well, they're owned by government, so they're not following the law. I need to inquire about that, Quincy, because that's a very serious concern. And it doesn't make any sense, actually. I really am confused. So if CIAA is hiring you and they're paying your benefits and whatever, then you should be getting all the benefits and insurance like everybody else that works for CIAA. Yes, thank you, Brenda, about cruise tourism, definitely. And those cruise tourist people, they're itching to come back, child. But I mean, in all honesty, some people have said, is there a way for us to survive without cruise tourism? I don't think that there is, because there's certain jobs and industries and businesses that specifically rely on that market. But I think people need to look at diversification even as business owners. So Patricia says, I used to live somewhere that won't give you a work permit unless you've hired 80% local hire in the company, no questions. Of course, you have to look at the numbers and make sure that is workable. Right? So you've actually got the numbers of Caymanians that you can hire. And quite frankly, given the population size of Caymanians versus what we have imported in terms of work permits, I should say work permit holders, it's obvious that we don't have enough Caymanians to fill all the positions. So you might be in a position where you're telling someone to hire 80% Caymanians, but the market just doesn't, even if you hired every single Caymanian, not every business would be able to say, I've got 80% Caymanians, because we just don't exist at such a high level. Now, I'm not encouraging y'all to go have more children necessarily, but I'm just saying those are the cold hard facts. Ali agrees that works is ridiculous. That seems to be the one consensus I think here today, that we can all agree on, that works just isn't working and they're ridiculous and they need to be revamped. And anybody at work's paying attention? Can we get some feedback? Ronnie says, good morning, Miss Sandy. You're doing a great job on getting the message to people. I hope that everyone wakes up and understands what's happening on the island and to their future. Well, we hope. Some people are woke. Some people still sleep at the wheels. So Ms. Brenda says, works is being run just like travel time. Cayman. They don't know what they're doing, and the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. It's so frustrating dealing with them. Ooh. No, sir. Not good. Well, we're still waiting on an answer about these quarantine breaches, because my question about the hotels was this. Do the hotels themselves not know what the protocol is? Like, how does a helper, a hotel, what's the correct term for the housekeeping crew, accidentally go into a room that was being occupied by someone in quarantine? Like, they don't know what the protocol was. Like, I don't know how housekeeping managers did it, the hotel managers. I don't know how those types of amateur mistakes are being made at this juncture. What's the word I'm looking for? In the whole situation, right? So that is that's a concern. So interestingly enough, Quincy says that CIAA pays them by check, and now that they're displaced, they're getting the tourism stipend, which he says is more money than he was making. Now, that's interesting, because that's one of the concerns, is that people like Quincy, and there's a lot of people in tourism who don't even make $1,500 a month. Again, what would be the motivation for Quincy to return as an ambassador if he's actually making more money, essentially doing nothing right now? Tell me. Any ambassador out there? Quincy, you can answer this or not. More than what his salary used to be. So he's going to get up every morning, put on his tourist face, put on his little hat, and go out there and be an ambassador for Cayman, when he could sit home and he thinks get the tourism stipend indefinitely. I mean, we know that that's not going to happen, but I'm just saying, for people like that, who the tourism stipend is actually more lucrative for them, and they don't necessarily have to do anything for it, and they could pick up a side hustle that could make a little bit more money, what is the incentive? So you see why when the minister talks about, oh, we got to start cutting back that $6 million a month, it makes total sense. Good morning, Ralston. How are you? Says, can I attend some of the hospitality drives and do interviews, or just to see how many persons show up, please? I've never been invited to them, and I've often wondered how that works, to be quite frank, because some people are a little bit funny with if they're like on a job drive. We did one, remember when the Flow had theirs? I think that was last year. We went to that one, but of course that was with their consent, with their permission. And even then, people are super shy, like they don't want to tell you about it, or they don't want to give you their feedback. So someone says that's how it's done. They have their own T&B. So Quincy, do you have your own trade and business licensing? I'm curious. So Patricia says Quincy has his own license. Oh, well, that's a very different situation. So you're an independent contractor. So Damien, thanks for the suggestion. I'm going to forward it to some of the powers that be in the Ministry of Tourism. See if that's a possibility. So he's thinking that maybe if there's a watchful eye over these so-called hospitality drives, but of course the actual drive is only one part of it. Like I'm not sitting in the office with them after they receive applications to see if that file is going to be seriously considered, that application, or if it gets put in the garbage. I don't even know. Who's in charge of works? Let me see if I can find out. I'm trying to remember. I feel like I should know this. They got a couple managers over there, child. One too many. Let me see. Who is in charge of works? So when you go to their website, they do have the first thing they show you is the upcoming drive, hospitality, or it just says registration drive dates. And if you need help registering, they're going to help you with that process. So this is where now you got to do your part. Who's in charge of works? I don't even know. It's a good question. But listen, before we're out of time, I want to talk about something briefly that was in the news yesterday, right? So there was an incident over the weekend with a young child, a toddler, 2-year-old, that ran into some difficulties at a pool. The child almost drowned, is what we heard, right? The child was blue when they took the child out of the water. It was face down, I guess, or floating in the water, whatever. Someone noticed it and pulled the child out. And we did receive some feedback from an individual who was there at the scene, who assisted that poor child in getting out of the pool. And then they said, listen, it was a very stressful situation. And obviously the parents are very, very upset. They have a 6-week-old child that the mother was holding, and they only took their eye off the child for what was all of 15 seconds, is what this person said. The father immediately performed CPR on the toddler as the mother was holding the 6-week-old child. There was zero drinking, they said. There was other families and children there. And apparently the little girl was jumping in and out of the pool the whole time with her flotation device. But they took her flotation device off because they were preparing to leave and they were starting to pack up and whatever. And she jumped into the pool without a flotation device. Her life came this close to being snuffed out at the age of 2. Now, I sympathize with any parent who finds themselves in this situation, because believe me, you folks, I cannot imagine the stress and how those parents must have felt. And of course, now everybody in the community is like, you're bad parents. What were you doing? How did you take your eye off your child? Listen, you all have children. We all have children. Well, most of us, whatever. You know that it takes just a split second for a child to get in trouble with water. And we've all taken our eyes off a child for a split second. So I don't feel like it's necessarily our place to judge what happened. We were not there. And it doesn't mean that they were being negligent or they were ignoring the child or anything like that. It is a stark reminder, folks, that it only takes a split second. Your child can drown in the bathtub. It doesn't have to be a pool at a hotel, right? Have you guys ever heard this dry drowning, where you don't even think that your child has drowned because they seem okay afterwards, but they've gotten enough water in their lungs that they still drown? And they can get that from a bathtub. So that's a real situation. It's shocking that that poor child found herself at the age of 2 almost drowning, but hopefully it's a wake-up call for the entire community of what can go wrong in just a split second, really. Folks, we are surrounded by water. We're surrounded by pools. And my daughter just started swimming lessons. I waited way longer than I should. From day one, I was like, oh, I want to get her in the pool at like 1 month. You see these little like babies that can't even walk yet, paddling and knowing how to at least float on their backs in case they get in trouble, right? And get to the edge and whatever. Teach your children as soon as they can. I don't swim. And I should be ashamed of myself as a Caymanian that I don't swim. And it's on my list of things that I need to do, that I need to correct. Oh, it's finding the time, really. But you know what? You make the time when you think about how important it is. So I think that, you know, you've got to be a little bit sympathetic to the situation that these parents found themselves in, because The God's honest truth is that could have been any of us, really. So Quincy clarifies, I've always promoting the Cayman Islands. I'm not a government minister, but I do my share of work. Yes, I do have my own trade and business license. CIA told us plain and straight we had to get one. Who's really responsible for us? Tourism or CIA? Exposed, Sandy. It's a shady area. Well, here's the thing, Quincy. If you have your own trade and business license and you're actually self-employed, which is essentially what you've told us, and then CIAA is, using your services as a self-employed person, you, in fact, are responsible for your pension and insurance. But this is a little bit of a tricky area. And I think this is CIAA trying to be a little bit smart about it, right? They're only paying you $11 an hour. And I mean, you're also only working full-time or part-time. So I wonder if they're saying, well, with your business license, you could go out there and get another part-time job and make up that salary and do something else. It doesn't sound like the most ideal way to organize ambassadors. But I think whoever's in charge of CIAA from an employment perspective, their HR manager, which, by the way, I hear they have a new HR manager, which they haven't announced, and I don't know why that is. But Dawn McLean Sawney, congratulations. I have heard that she's the new chief recruiting officer, or whatever they call themselves over there, CHRO, Human Resources Officer, at CIAA. I heard this mid-month. I also heard that a Caymanian University student in Florida had contacted COVID. Well, we've not heard anything about that. No details, but anyway, hopefully they've since recovered. But yes, Dawn McLean Sawney's over there. So I wonder if this is a situation where CIAA was trying to save money by not giving you any benefits and forcing you to be self-employed. But then the burden is on you to actually have your own health insurance plan and your own pension plan. Seems a little bit sketchy to me. But people do it all the time. I mean, I don't have the capacity to hire anyone full-time, but there'll be other people, videographers, graphic designers, whatever. I use their services, but they're independent contractors. But in this situation, especially it being a government entity, it does seem to be a little bit unusual. I'm going to see what more I can find out. So another person has been messaging, says that these people need to go out and work. Simple. Government isn't there to provide the stipend forever. If we open up the borders, the stipend should automatically stop. That was the whole purpose of the stipend, wasn't it? Their asses need to get back to work if the borders open up. What would they be doing if COVID never happened? Well, if COVID never happened, tourism would have been shut down, so there would have been no stipend. The person goes on to say, fully support this, and the wording is the truth. Lots of these lazy people prefer to collect easy money than work. That $1,500 is more than they're making on regular wages. The truth is the truth. The words used don't matter, referring to Kenneth using the word scare tactics. Point is, they need to get back to work, and there are people working and still collecting the money full time. I think if you're a temporary contract employee, the employer is mandated to pay pension and health insurance. But in this case, they're actually self-employed. Another person says, Minister Brian was correct this morning. Sorry. Caymanians have the first opportunity for our jobs. A senior representative of our labor department should be allowed to be present during job interviews. If a foreign applicant without specific training for a specific job can be employed in that position, why can't a Caymanian? We also need to arrange a short motivational meeting with applicants before they go into interviews. So trying to upskill and give applicants the tools that they need. Regarding the reopening, how can certain potential tourists expect us to open our borders to them when they themselves have not practiced similar health protection procedures as we have? We as Caymanians have succeeded in creating healthy islands because of our elective sacrifices. We have no urge to be exposed to others who do not practice similar standards. I'm curious as to what the standards are. I did want to get into this discussion about Jamaica and their vaccine, but we're out of time. So we're definitely going to talk about that tomorrow. And we'll see what is going on there. Another person says, I totally agree with what Kenneth said, including his choice of words. Nothing wrong with what he said at all. People need to understand the Compass need to go look some real news. And then they did the little rolling eye emoji. Somebody else said Kenneth shouldn't have said that he would give them money in November and December. Well, I think the truth of the matter is the government had already decided that, they weren't going to be cutting people off cold turkey. There was going to be a certain element of gradual withdrawal, and they were going to probably start at 50%. Here's news. The European Union is taking the U.S. off of the safe travel list. So the European Union has recommended that its 27 nations remove the U.S. from a list of countries for non-essential travel and reinstate restrictions on tourists from there because of rising coronavirus infections now in several U.S. states. The recommendation is non-binding, but U.S. travelers should expect changes in travel rules across the European continent. Well, hot mess, child, but there you have it. The UK also revised their lists of their green, amber, and red. Nothing has changed for Cayman, thankfully. And surprisingly, although a lot of people had anticipated Jamaica being put on the red list, they remain on the amber list. However, from another perspective, a lot of the government officials in the UK have said that going to Jamaica is not a priority for its citizens. So if you are in the UK, they're saying, listen, there's no reason really for you to be traveling to Jamaica at this time because of their numbers. Everybody's in a COVID rush to see, well, who's got the worst numbers. So this was, let me just see this headline. So immigrants and refugees must be vaccinated in the U.S. European Union takes the U.S. off the safe list. Yes, Jamaica. This one was flights being pulled. So there's this travel agency, I guess airline. Tourism sector has been dealt a major blow with TUI pulling new flights to Jamaica as the UK government advises against non-essential travel to the island because of the COVID risk. This is why everyone thought that they might have been placed on the red list on Friday, but that didn't happen. So they're still on the amber list. So they were relieved to find that out, Jamaica. But travelers because travelers obviously from red listed countries are placed under greater restrictions, including a 10-day quarantine and a $2,000 or 2,000 pound hotel stay on their arrival in the UK. But TUI, which is one of UK's largest tour operators, have canceled all flights to Jamaica until September the 11th. So they sell a number of resorts, including Royalton, Rio, Decameron, Hyatt Ziva, Zalara, Jewel Grande, Azul Beach Negril. And so in a statement on their website, TUI advised all of its guests holidaying in Jamaica that they would continue their vacation and return to the UK as planned. But customers who were looking to use their services going forward, they were canceling flights at least until September the 11th. So what a hot mess. The situation in Jamaica continues to be grave with the number of, listen, over the weekend, we did an article, folks. They have run out of hospital beds in multiple hospitals. They've run out over the weekend. They were getting low on oxygen, which is needed if you catch COVID. There's one company that makes oxygen or produces it or whatever for the hospitals there. And they were like, we're not going to have any until next week. I don't know how that happens, but apparently it did. So their situation is getting really, really dire, but we'll talk about that tomorrow for Caribbean Connection Wednesday. Jonathan says the government should give every red-blooded Caymanian of 3 generations and older a stipend just to balance out the cost of living. Jonathan, don't we wish? But you know what? I don't wish. I never wish for anyone to give me anything in life, because that's my motivation to get up and hustle, because I ain't getting none. I don't have any handouts. When people start giving you stuff, it is not normally to your benefit. Jonathan, someday we should have a conversation about what has happened to the Native Americans in America because of handouts. Because, you know, America, the Europeans came and raped them of their land and everything that they had. So they thought the equitable thing to do was to put a system in place where they could set up casinos, they could do tobacco and all this kind of stuff, duty-free and tax-free and so on. And then we just give them money from the casino earnings. And some of them get a paycheck every single month for $4,000 or $5,000. You got to prove that you're at least a certain percentage Seminole, Indian, or whatever, right? To get money from that particular casino. But I had a girlfriend who used to work in the casino in the accounts department. She's like, honey child, these people are receiving money hand over fist. The casino makes tons of money. And if you're 100% Seminole Indian, you get so much. If you're 50%, you get 50% of that, and you know, all the way down to whatever. So there are people dying to prove that they were at least a portion Seminole money to get this free money, as Seminole Indian, to get this free money. But you know what it has done for its people? They have the highest rate of alcoholism of anybody in the United States of America. Suicide rate is sky high. The people are unmotivated. They don't do anything with their lives or the money. So everybody thinks, oh my God, if I get free money, then I'm going to really be out there like hustling. And no, you're not. Handouts and freeness makes you friggin' lazy. So I would personally never advocate, just like NAU, I think it needs to come with certain strings attached. I would never be an advocate of just handing people money. You got to do something for it. You got to work for it. Because history has proven that handouts are not going to help the people that you're actually handing out very much. Now look, this little dog somebody has found in the countryside area. What a little cutie patootie. If this is your dog, please message us. If the dog looks familiar, because some of them sure look alike, please message your neighbors and friends if they live in the area. It is obviously a male dog based on the anatomy. And the dog has been found by Foster Savannah. If it's your dog, I'm going to post it up on the website here in a second. Please make contact with us and we will let you know who the person is that has your dog. Okay, beautiful. Folks, thank you so much for tuning into the program again today. Mr. Ralston, Howard, I mean, they spend money on everything else, but the people, we're helping people. They ain't helping us. Nothing comes easy, says Emma. No, honey child. And believe me, the Native Americans sadly have proven that when it does come easy, it's not going to really benefit people. They're alcoholics on drugs. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. That's not the answer, unfortunately. Bob says, make Dart give every Caymanian. Y'all not easy, no? Love to cuss Dart, but then he must be the one to solve all your problems. Dart is a private citizen, a private business owner. And yes, he contributes a lot more than y'all actually realize or know. And I should tell you that we're going to start featuring some of the stuff that Dart does, because I think it's a little bit unfair that y'all put such a burden on him in terms of criticism, but then you never acknowledge what he actually does do for the community. And I'm just saying, let's be balanced. Dacia, thank you. They now have oxygen. Their shipment came in, saw it in the news. Shipment of oxygen. So the company that supplies it, I don't know how you make oxygen. This is totally me being completely ignorant because I know nothing about this from a medical perspective. But where does the oxygen come from? How is it manufactured? They don't manufacture it in Jamaica? Here's another person that says, I am very intimately aware of a certain entity that lied to a qualified Caymanian applicant that they were not filling a CEO position, but they sneakily appointed a foreign national in an acting position. You can't make this shit up. Oh, and if only generational Caymanians have the functity of the green iguana. No, I don't think. What is this? Fecundity? Now, listen here, my friend. You're trying to throw out some words at me. Y'all sit there. Y'all don't think I got to look it up on dictionary.com. I know what it means, but I'm trying to see how you actually pronounce it.
Fecundity.
Fecundity. I was completely off on that one. Fecundity.
Fecundity.
Mess with you. My little friend like to throw in some words, make sure they say, yeah, you claim say you're English major. Go look that one up. Try that one on. And for those of you who have no clue what it means, fecundity. The quality of being fecund, capacity, especially in female animals, of producing young in great numbers. Fruitfulness or fertility, the capacity of abundant production. So they're saying that we should be like the iguanas, like multiplying. The only problem with that is anybody with real sense, and I mean this without trying to insult y'all who got a million children, because I know y'all gonna be all upset about that. But anybody with real sense knows that they can't have children like an iguana or like a rabbit or whatever other analogy. You can't. It's not even about financially affording them, which is a problem, but finding the time to spend. If you got 4 or 5 children, you're trying to give them individualized time every day to carve that out. How do you do that between jobs, school? It's impossible. So I have never been an advocate of having a boatload of children. I always kind of thought in my head that I'd probably only have one child. And I think I used to say that. But ideally, I think 2 children is the perfect number. And it would be great if you can get 1 boy, 1 girl, then you're done. But child, you don't always get it. I could manage 2. More than that, forget it. And then you know what happened? I waited so long to have my 1 that by the time I started thinking about it, I'm like, oh God, a second one in my 40s. I'm tired already at night. She doesn't sleep at night. She's a horrible sleeper. I was like, forget it. I just threw in the towel. You're all crazy. Boatload of children, not me. It was different, I think, years ago when you had this community support. Like you could trust, well, I don't know. You thought you could trust people with your children then too, but you probably couldn't. Because so many people now in their 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s talk about how they were products of abuse because they were being trusted with uncles and going over to their aunt's house and the uncle was there molesting them. See, I'm just not a trusting person like that. So y'all will know, those of you who know me, that my child is we don't even have a helper. We don't have a nanny. I've been fortunate enough because I am self-employed. Even recently we had someone come in to help during the school break time. I'm here popping in and out, keeping an eye on things. And y'all better believe I got cameras everywhere and I know what's going on. But to say like I could just take my child and drop it off with somebody, I'm sorry, not happening. And you get stressed out when you got more than one. Cheese and peace. Here, Dacia. My grandmother had 12 children. I am the fourth child, so I'm glad my mom didn't stop at 3. I'm grateful. Well, I am one of, how many did my mom have? Like 7 or 8 or some ridiculous number. I'm just saying, in this day and age, it ain't happening. I'm sorry. It ain't happening. And I'm the youngest too, Dacia. So of course, if she didn't have that many, I guess I wouldn't be here either. But if you're not here, you don't know nothing about it. Works Deputy Director is Sean Perdue. She was appointed in September 2018. So she's Deputy Director of Labor and what's her title? Labor Needs and Supply. So maybe we need to be talking to her to figure out what is going on in Works. Sean Perdue, we shall be reaching out to you. Compliance, is he still over there? Jeremy Scott. He went over in the compliance side, so he's the one who should be making sure that employers do what they need to be doing. Miss Sharon was over there, Sharon Ralston, for a minute, but of course they've since moved her back to the Ombudsman's office. And I told you all about that situation. So who else? I'm just trying to see who else is, who heads up Works? New department head. Is this person still Catherine Whitaker? This was when was Catherine appointed? So she was appointed back in, I think this is 2018. So it says leaders with workforce opportunities and blah, 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 are proud to announce the appointment of Ms. Catherine Whitaker as its new head of labor demands development and training. Okay. They got so many damn heads over there. It's a problem. I don't even know who heads it all up. I have no clue. I'm just going through their website trying to figure it out. Then they had Mervyn Manderson appointed as acting deputy director of compliance. Then they had a new acting director, Jeremy Scott. That was 2020. So is Jeremy still acting director of Works? But I think that's more on the immigration side. What used to be immigration. It's so confused. Like when they split immigration, whatever, like in some ways they've just complicated it and everybody's confused. Is it still Jeremy Scott? Let me see if I can find out, y'all, and get to the bottom of that one. Thank you so much for tuning into the program. Nellie says, I've registered with them and no one having read out to me yet, so I'm looking for a job on my own. No one's reached out. Jonathan. I'm curious, though, Nellie, when you registered, don't you then have to go and individually go through jobs and apply for them from the portal? Have you been doing that? All right, folks, that's all she wrote. I got to put on my other hat, which is mommy duty now, and some other work. I've got tons of work, actually, that I have to get done. But my daughter's school doesn't go back in session until Friday. So we're working with mommy this week. She's like, when do I go back to school? I know she's ready to go back to, and I'm ready to. Folks, y'all have a beautiful day. We will catch you tomorrow right here. Cayman's #1 talk show. None other than The Cold Hard Truth. You guys be safe until then.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.